Hi, this is Kevin Kraut again, Ogden Kraut's son. This is the book Insight to the Nations. It's a compilation of about 12 books. This actually is volume 4. And volume 4 has a unique book in it. It's called and entitled Seers and Seer Stones. And right here on this Seer stone, this very top one right here, is what they call the Belcher stone. And this particular stone was on Joseph Smith's mantle in Nauvoo. When he was killed, Philo Dibble came. Now Philo Dibble also made the death masks of Joseph and Hiram Smith. And what they did was this stone has kind of a hole in it right here. And it's about a little bit smaller than a fist size. And what it is it was a unique stone because Joseph actually used this as well as the green stone, what they call a green stone or chocolate stone. Actually, this was more green. I guess the other one had more chocolate in it. And the chocolate stone was actually in Joseph Fielding Smith's possession. This particular stone was taken and it was given to the granddaughter of Philo Dibble, who actually was Norman Pierce's wife. And Norman Pierce also wrote one of the Dream Mine books, and it was kind of a dream miner with my father at the relief mine with John Coyle. And anyway, this stone my father borrowed from the Pierce family, and kind of the folklore behind it is that that was to be passed to my father at some point of his death. And what happened was the one son took it to Princeton with all of his father's, Norman Pierce's works, and donated it to Princeton University. And then Princeton University, I sent back and called one of the directors there, Mr. Carter, and asked him about this stone because I wanted to see it again. and also told him the story that there was a folklore that it possibly could have been Dad's or should have been Dad's, because none of the family were that interested in it. And so anyway, so what happened was Mr. Carter asked to see a fax of that, or what it looked like. I faxed him one, and he said, no, there's no such stone. Well, 10 years from the date of Norman Pierce's death, or near that, they actually sold this stone for about $100,000 to a gentleman in Provo, down the river bottoms in Provo. And then I went to see him and talked to him about it, and he said, well, the only way you'd be able to see this stone is if you could find one of the family members to come with you, because every Christmas we sit down and we show the stone and we go through it, that kind of thing. Well, I didn't know any of the family. I mean, Dad knew him, but I didn't. And ironically, we ran into one of the daughters of Norman Pierce, who was trying to help us to go and see the stone. And she was kind of trying to work something out where we could get it back in our family or into her family or something anyway. And then not long after that, this past May in 2011, or near there, the stone was given to the church. It was actually in... Okay, so then the stone was actually donated to the church, and the family was a little upset over that because they didn't want it to ever go back into the church's hands. They wanted to make sure it stayed in, a private collection or a private thing. And apparently they said that it couldn't be sold to the church, so the guy actually conveyed it or gave it to the church. And so now that's where the stone is, that particular stone. This stone down here is the stone that Brigham Young carried. It was an interesting stone. It was actually made, it says a bloodstone. President Brigham Young carried this stone on chain when going into unknown or dangerous places. And so that was kind of an interesting stone in and of itself, because bloodstone does have that actual capability of kind of protecting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about seer stones. This one down here is Edwin Rushton's stone. That's the one on the very bottom. And that particular stone is actually still in the Rushton family's possession. And so these are probably the only plates that I think were color. They were taken by my father and I found in his private collection of papers and books. Now, an interesting thing when I teach people how to kind of understand how a seer stone works, or different ways that it works, there's two ways that it happens. Number one, it's just the same as like having a vision or a dream. A vision would be an actual open vision. You would be sitting there and all of a sudden it would open up, the veil would come through, you would see this type of a thing. And some seer stones, like when Joseph translated, it would light up or it'd be like an open vision. But other ways it works more like, and most often it works the same as, and seership works this way, as a dream state. And so when I try and explain this to people, how I explain it is I tell them to close their eyes, and then I say, okay, now imagine a white elephant. And so in their mind's eye, they see a white elephant. And I say, okay, have a lion come and stand underneath or by the white elephant. And they do that. And then I said, okay, now have the lion jump over the elephant. And there are some people who right away see the elephant and right away see the lion, and you know. And then there's some people that never see the white elephant, nor can they create a lion. And so that particular response mechanism, and you can actually practice this. This is imagination. This is how it works in your mind's eye. This is that state of dream state. This is how dreams are formulated. This is how they come together. I did a lot of dreaming when I was young, and some were very prophetic dreams, which I'll get into some of those stories later. This particular mechanism, what you do is you go out and you find a stone that looks good to you, or may some reason cause you to grab that stone. And then you take the stone and you put that stone into your left hand, if you're right-handed, and you hold it in there, and it will more than likely heat up. If it's kind of balanced to your body or frequency that's close to your body or whatever, it'll warm up. And that usually means that that stone has something that's like you. And so then what you do is you close your eyes and you begin to ask, and you begin to kind of clear your mind and start trying to see things in your mind's eye. What most people try and do with the seer stone is get it to the visionary state where you actually see the vision of this. And I say, well, that's possible, but more than likely not. Where dream states, the Lord spoke through dreams all over the place. Almost everything that when Jesus was told, you know, where to take, you know, his father had a way to go, and then he went to another place. It was all by dreams. Lehi, the same thing. They were told different mechanisms were done by actual dreaming or through the dreams. And so dreams are very accurate. They're very, very specific, very clear, and possibly they're not as interrupted as an actual vision, or that there's not equal time given to the devil from a vision. Once you have a vision, like Joseph, he had equal time with the dark side, equal time with the light side. And so it's kind of interesting how that works. So it just takes practice, and eventually you can start seeing things. I know seers that don't have to have a seer stone. It's just a mechanism to help them to see things. And then they see all kinds of things. And that's where visions and dreams come from, using seer stones.